Episode 31. You are listening to the new Glam Gal Podcast, the podcast where style meets confidence. Conquer the frustration of trying on clothes and learn to dress and love the body you are in. There are no size or weight requirements here. I'm your host, Miss J. Join me, won't you? Hey Glam Gal, welcome back to the podcast. This week, we're going to talk about how to accept compliments graciously. Now, when I started to do the research for this podcast episode, I had a lot of assumptions. One, that you simply say thank you and kind of move it along, and you could leave it there, but not so. I also assumed that complimenting someone back was the appropriate thing to do in accepting a compliment graciously. Not necessarily so. So this week, I'm going to sort of walk you through what I've learned. Then we're going to apply it on a more style and confidence kind of level and how you can actually apply this. So what I learned is that humans are fascinating, but women in particular, as you know, I have the strong belief they're fascinating creatures. I learned that humans do essentially three things when it comes to a compliment. They either accept it, deflect it, or they reject it. And oftentimes, we're more familiar with the deflecting and the rejecting. How does this play out? So it plays out in, oh, it's not really that great. Oh, this old thing. Or we go historical and we say things like, oh, well, I bought it at a discount price 3 years ago. Or we say, oh, it's not that big a deal because actually so-and-so was the one responsible for the thing you're complimenting me for. A lot of it has to do with false modesty, which I thought was interesting because in American culture, we value, at least we say we value, modesty and humility. We make it one of those values that we all admire. And we use it sort of as a buzzword now. It's this authentic. Are you being authentic? Are you being vulnerable? Which leads people to do a lot of deflecting and rejecting of compliments in the sake of being quote unquote vulnerable and authentic. And it comes across as kind of schmarmy and yucky, and you can kind of get that vibe. So let me give you an example of how this actually plays out. I'm with my friend Dee Dee. Actually, I ran through this scenario with my friends Dee Dee, Miranda, and Sherelle over dinner, so I don't think they'll mind me using their names. So I tell Sherelle, I love your sweater. And Sherelle will do one of two things. She'll either deflect or reject the compliment. She'll say, oh, no, I actually borrowed it from Dee Dee. She's deflecting it to someone else. Or she'll boomerang a compliment back at me. Oh, but I love your sweater. Now, if she rejects the compliment, she may say something like, oh, no, this old thing, it's not that great. You're crazy. Oh, this old thing, girl, I bought it like 10 years ago on discount. It's not that great. And outright reject it. She just doesn't believe that it's true that you actually love this sweater or this sweater's great at all. So she's actually calling you a liar on 2 counts, which is kind of fascinating. Let's say I complimented my friend Miranda, and I said, Miranda, I love your blouse. And she says, thank you, and nothing else. And then everyone kind of stares at her secretly, like strangely, like what is happening? She's not going to self-deprecate. She's not going to reject or deflect. She's just going to say thank you. But now she's broken some secret super code that women have. At least we're all raised to have this idea that we're required to be modest. We're required to be humble. That's part of the social mores of being a woman. We're supposed to deflect. We're supposed to reject compliments. There's this unwritten code amongst American women in particular that you're required by some super secret code to reject or deflect a compliment. It's like when we're raised as girls, we're sort of taught this and we see our mothers do this, so we repeat that behavior. So when we just go say thank you, it's kind of weird. And then there's this like gossip that occurs later. Can you believe she just said thank you? Who does she think she is? Does she think she's better than us because her blouse is so cute? We get in these weird patterns of behaving. Well, and here's this other layer that I came across in my research. Is not only do women have this super secret code that they're required to reject or deflect compliments because they can't be considered vain. And then amongst Americans in particular, When they give compliments, it's an open invitation to have a small communication amongst yourselves. It's an invitation to chat. So if I tell someone in the dressing room, hey, Miranda, I love your blouse. You should totally buy that. I'm inviting her to converse with me about the clothing we're trying on, what we're doing this day, if we're going to a social event. All of this is sort of unspoken rules amongst Americans and amongst women in particular. So if you just stop at thank you, it's kind of weird. And you'll sense it too. You'll say thank you, and then you'll have this strong urge to say something else. And I'm not rejecting all the women who say thank you and they're able to, with complete self-confidence, say thank you and move on. But if it feels awkward to you to say thank you and just move on, there's a reason. And I want you to understand the reason so that in order to accept a compliment graciously, whatever gracious will feel like for you, you kind of understand your motivation for not just wanting to simply say thank you and move it along. Now, if you're one of those gals who says thank you and can move it along, that's amazing. And you keep doing you, boo-boo. And you tell all the other girls. You model it for them and you exemplify it. I love it. Now, for the rest of us gals who may be out of practice with saying thank you and moving it along, this episode is for you. So now you kind of understand why you have trouble just saying thank you and moving it along. There's another layer of the why that I want you to consider. It's the whole self-deprecation thing. You may not actually believe that you're worthy of being complimented. And the compliment you receive, you may actually think it's a lie. You don't believe it. So you're going to reject it on its face because you foundationally believe it's not true. It's not a matter of false modesty. You actually don't believe the thing that the person is telling you. And it's never about them. It's always about us. It's like someone handing you a beautiful cashmere pashmina. And instead of wrapping yourself in it and rubbing it across your face and being like, goodness, you instead throw it on the floor, smash your foot on top of it, rub some dirt on it, and then hand it back to the person. Because you actually don't believe you're worth being wrapped up in some beautiful cashmere. Imagine it to be light blue for some reason, this light blue cashmere pashmina. Like you can't even fathom wrapping yourself up in its yummy goodness. You can't even fathom accepting a compliment because you don't believe you're worth complimenting. That's where a lot of the work lies for a lot of you gals, is getting to a place of belief. But I don't want you to stop accepting compliments in the meantime while you're working on believing it. I want you to at least practice saying, thank you, I really needed to hear that. Thank you, I'm so glad you think so. Those two little add-ons at the end can mean everything for the person who gave you the compliment, sort of completes the whole transaction in their brain. That communication, that little bit of chit-chat took place. They can move it along. And then it just feels good to you. And you're getting in the practice, at least letting your brain play with the possibility that it could be possibly true, that you're worth wrapping up in a beautiful cashmere light blue pashmina. That you may get your brain open to the possibility that you're worth complimenting. What the other person is saying may be true. Thank you. I really needed to hear that. It's a pretty powerful, very simple statement. And you don't have to lie. It's not like you're saying, oh my God, I adopt everything you said as true. My blouse is freaking fabulous. And my sweater is awesome. Like, we didn't have to go there. If you don't really think that and you just threw this old thing on and that's your true reality. But sometimes we really need to hear something good about ourselves. And this is the last thing I want to point out about compliments. Why not accept them? It feels good. There's nothing vainglorious. There's no moral turpitude involved. Someone just gave you a precious gift of beautiful words. And I remember once, and this made an impression on me, and I hope it makes an impression on you. I remember once Maya Angelou was talking about the real communication and interaction we have with our Creator, our God. But she made the point that our communication with God was through our words. That really the only gift we're capable of giving Him are our words. So our words actually have really profound impact and meaning if that's the only means of communication, the only real gift that we can give our Creator. And that just, whoa, like that, that hit me upside the head. And I also cried like a baby, not gonna lie, totally in tears. So why not give that special gift to another human being? And why not receive that gift back with a simple thank you? I really needed to hear that. Thank you for saying so. Thank you. With a tiny, small interaction, you can open the door for some more human connection. Real, authentic human connection. Now, I know on Instagram there's this penchant for writing, great pic, awesome shot, love this pic. And it's completely disingenuous. And there are people who are essentially trying to fill up a quota of how many people they're going to comment on in a given day. I'm not talking about those kind of compliments that you click a heart and move on. But from a style and confidence perspective, this is a small gift that you can give yourself and receive all at the same time. And there's no negative consequence to that. There's some beauty in that. So, Glam Gal, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is one, from a confidence standpoint, really start to evaluate why you're rejecting or deflecting compliments as they come to you. Is it really a matter that you don't want to be perceived as conceited? Or is it that you actually don't believe what the other person is saying and you have some self-love work to do? 2, I want you to start practicing some stylish replies when you receive compliments. I want you to try on for size. Thank you. I really needed to hear that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Or simply, and this is for the brave and the bold, thank you, and move it along. All right, I would love to see what you're up to on Instagram. Use the hashtag #NewGlamGal. If you need help with this kind of work, and I completely understand if you do, feel free to sign up for a freestyle session and we can kind of talk about this some more, especially if you realize that you're deflecting or rejecting because you have some self-love work to do. I'm here for you, boo. All right, let's get it. Miss J out.